Have you seen the absolute chaos Pro Football Focus just unleashed in their latest 3-round mock draft? I am staring at these picks for our Bears and my jaw is completely on the floor right now. If this scenario actually plays out, it could absolutely redefine our entire defense while sparking a massive debate about our offensive priorities. Before we tear into this explosive mock draft, make sure you smash that like button, share this video with every diehard fan you know, and hit subscribe so you never miss a breaking update. Are we seriously about to ignore the glaring holes on this roster, or are we finally going to draft the game changers we so desperately need? Think about it, free agency has practically ground to a halt, and our front office is sitting on 4 highly coveted picks in the first 3 rounds. We have the 25th, 57th, 60th, and 89th overall selections. We do have a 4th rounder and 2 7ths in our back pocket, but this specific mock only covers the first 3 rounds. And let me tell you, the direction they have us going at number 25 overall is going to make your head spin. PFF has us taking Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Now, take a deep breath and let's talk about this. The idea of grabbing either Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or Dylan Thieneman at 25 is incredibly tantalizing, but it is also insanely divisive. Personally, I am screaming at the screen because I lean just a fraction more toward Thieneman. Both of these guys have absolute killer tape, but Thieneman proved himself against elite competition in the Big Ten at both Purdue and Oregon. And let's be brutally honest about the testing numbers. Our front office has been practically shouting from the rooftops that we need to get faster. Thieneman scorched the turf at the combine with a blazing 4.35 40-yard dash. Meanwhile, McNeil-Warren clocked in at a 4.52. That is a massive discrepancy when you are talking about covering the deep third of the field. But hold on, do not write off McNeil-Warren just yet, because when you turn on his Toledo highlights, the man is an absolute missile. He flies around the field with a terrifying level of violence. Toledo has actually built a sneaky good track record of churning out NFL-ready talent lately, so the whole small school red flag does not terrify me as much as it normally would for a first-round pick. PFF handed him a staggering 92 overall grade, and his coverage metrics are off the charts. He is relentless in run support, entirely willing to step down into the box, and offers incredible positional flexibility. He might not be the biggest or most explosive safety in the class, but you can deploy him in the nickel, let him patrol the box, or use him laterally in coverage. Pairing that kind of versatility next to our newly signed Kobe Bryant could be a match made in heaven. This brings me to our massive question of the day, and I need you all to flood the comments right now. If we are drafting a safety at 25, who are you taking? Type BMW if you want the sheer violence of Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, or type DT if you want the blazing speed and big school pedigree of Dylan Thieneman. I am desperately leaning toward Thieneman simply because of those elite testing numbers, but I want to read every single one of your arguments down below. Alright, let's move on to round 2, because the 57th overall pick has me absolutely jumping out of my seat. PFF has us snagging Penn State Edge Rusher Dennis Sutton. I am trying to keep my composure here, but this is a dream scenario. I usually despise drafting based strictly on helmet logos, but Penn State has become a literal factory for game-wrecking pass rushers, and Dennis Sutton is an absolute monster. We are talking about back-to-back 8.5 sack seasons, and he pulled that off this past year while playing in 3 fewer games. The sheer production is undeniable. If you know anything about what General Manager Ryan Poles and Defensive Coordinator Dennis Allen are building, you know they are obsessed with size, length, and physical upside. Dennis Sutton checks every single one of those boxes with a permanent marker. He is exactly the kind of towering, heavy-handed defensive end that Dennis Allen uses to terrorize opposing quarterbacks. Yes, his hips look a little tight on film occasionally, but getting a guy in the second round who can instantly guarantee you 6 to 8 sacks a year, that is a robbery. As he refines his pass rush arsenal, he has legitimate double-digit sack potential. He anchors the edge beautifully in the run game, and his frame looks like it can easily pack on even more muscle. If he somehow plummets to our pick at 57, or heaven forbid our other second-rounder at 60, we have to sprint to the podium. If he was there at 89, it would be the undisputed steal of the century, though there is zero chance he falls that far. Snagging McNeil Warren and Dennis Sutton in the first 2 rounds is a masterclass in roster building. But then we get to pick number 60. And this is where my frustration starts boiling over. PFF has us taking Florida center Jake Slaughter. Let me be crystal clear. I understand the fit. I really do. It checks a massive box for our offensive line needs. Slaughter graded out exceptionally well, specifically as a zone blocker. Under head coach Ben Johnson, we know this offense relies heavily on the outside zone run game. Johnson is a brilliant offensive mind who can adapt to gap blocking if personnel dictates it, but the foundation remains the same. Bringing in a veteran like Garrett Bradbury was a clear signal that we are committed to that outside zone scheme, and Slaughter fits that profile perfectly. He tested well, and there are a lot of positive traits on his tape. But taking a center in the 2nd round this year, that is just way too rich for my blood. I am looking at this draft board, and I genuinely do not see a single center prospect who warrants a 2nd round investment. Now, I know there is a severe shortage of quality centers league-wide, which might panic some teams into reaching, but we have Garrett Bradbury holding down the fort right now. We are stable enough that we do not need to burn premium draft capital on an interior lineman unless he is a generational talent guaranteed to lock down the starting job by 2027 and hold it for a decade. This screams of drafting for need rather than drafting for value, and that is how bad front offices stay bad. If Slaughter was sitting there at pick 89, I would be turning backflips. But at 60, when we still haven't addressed the defensive tackle spot, or added another premium cornerback, it just feels like a massive missed opportunity. I love the player, and I respect the fit, but the value is absolutely atrocious. Thankfully, the 3rd round is where PFF completely redeems themselves. At pick 89, they have us drafting Texas linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. Now this is the kind of value that wins championships. Frankly, if you swap the draft slots for Hill and Slaughter, this entire mock draft would make perfect sense. Hill is a flat-out 2nd-round talent. For some inexplicable reason, PFF's big board has him ranked way lower than the consensus, allowing him to slide right into our laps at 89. This kid is the undeniable heartbeat of a defense. He was an absolute force of nature for the Longhorns. Sure, his raw counting stats dipped a little bit this past season, but context is everything. He missed a couple of games due to injury and only suited up for 10 contests, whereas the year before Texas had that incredibly deep playoff run resulting in way more games played. What makes Hill so incredibly dangerous is his ability as a blitzer. Dennis Allen would have a field day scheming up pressures for him. He is a homing missile in the backfield. Now, I will admit, his coverage skills can be a bit of a roller coaster. There are plays where he reads the quarterback's eyes flawlessly, like that stunning interception he had off Georgia's Gunnar Stockton, where he beautifully baited him into a throw over the middle and took off with it. But then there are other reps where he gets caught flat-footed, leans the wrong way, and gives up a frustrating completion behind him. That inconsistency is par for the course with young, aggressive linebackers, and Hill possesses more than enough raw athleticism to polish that area of his game. He ran exceptionally well, and if we secure him in the 3rd round, he is instantly pushing for a starting job. It honestly begs the question. If we draft Anthony Hill Jr., does that mean T.J. Edwards is on the trade block? You would suddenly have an incredibly fast, dynamic linebacker room featuring Edwards, Devin Bush, and Marco Jackson. You could let Hill and Jackson wage an absolute war in training camp for that number 2 spot, slot the odd man out as the strong side linebacker, and leave Devin Bush to fly around on the weak side. When you step back and look at the entirety of this 3-round projection, it is hard not to be thrilled. You walk away with a tone-setting safety in Emmanuel McNeil Warren, a physical freak on the edge with Dennis Sutton, a scheme-perfect center in Jake Slaughter, and an absolute steal at linebacker with Anthony Hill Jr. If they had just drafted Hill at 60 and grabbed Slaughter at 89, I would give this a perfect grade. Because of that slight reach, I am handing this PFF mock draft a very solid A-. The only glaring omission is the lack of a dominant defensive tackle, which is definitely frustrating, but unless you start trading back to stockpile picks, you simply cannot fix every single hole in 3 rounds. Sometimes you just have to take the best player available on your board.